For the longest time, I secretly wanted more. I often found myself shrinking to fit in, settling for what was comfortable, and even selling myself short. Once I finally accepted that we deserve success and we are blessed with the power to achieve it, I stopped playing small. I'm serious about building a life I love, and you should be too. I'm Denise Taylor of DeniseTaylor.live, and welcome to Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness. I help women prioritize themselves, their success, and their happiness. Let's meet this week's achiever whose story will inspire you to push past your fears and soar. Well, it's Denise Taylor, and I'm always excited to have you join me each and every week for Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness. Now, we are in the midst of a rewind. We are playing back my conversations that took place during my signature event, Couples Love Week, the fall edition. I had the opportunity to have 5 fantastic couples join me on the virtual stage, and today we will get a chance to hear of the great conversation I had with Chris and Shanté Nicole. Now, they are more than friends. They are super friends, and their lifelong friendship is the foundation for their powerhouse relationship. They are life partners who are committed to one another, and they are committed to serving the needs of their autistic teen son, just like superheroes. Now, autism impacts 1 in 54 children in the U.S., according to the CDC. So this is something that commands our attention, and I love how both Chris and Shanté are serving and advocating for families who have autistic children at home. So take a listen to this conversation. I think you'll be inspired. I think you will figure out how to have more grace with families who have children who are disabled in some way. And I think that you will feel an overwhelming sense to love people who are different than you. So with that, tune in, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in our community. Welcome, you guys, to night number 2. Look at that awesome couple we've got joining me here on Couples Love Week. You guys are celebrating an anniversary this week, correct?
On Friday.
Oh, yeah. So that must be the theme, because the couple last night is celebrating. So we got love in the air. And I'm so excited to have you guys join. We had a wonderful time last night, and I know for sure we're going to have a great time tonight as well, as you guys just share from your experience. You know, the beauty of Life, Love, and the Pursuit of Happiness is we bring everyday people to talk about their experiences. And today we're going to focus on love. We're going to focus on that beautiful baby of yours. Well, he's not a baby anymore. He's a pretty big boy now. And we're going to talk about your experience helping to navigate everything that you've had to deal with in raising him to thrive. And so I want to welcome you to Couples Love Week. Now, when I was trying to figure out what to call you as a powerhouse couple, immediately, I was taken back to our conversation about the friendship, which was the core foundation of your relationship. And I thought about that combined with the fact that you guys are so heroic in how you are showing up for Dylan. And I was like, they're the super friends. And then when I went on your Facebook page, I was like, no, they ain't on here as superheroes already. And so I knew that it was fitting. I knew that you had the heart of being a superhero for him and for your family. And so I'm so excited. Now, when I define super friend, I define a super friend as someone who makes you want to be a better person. And I think the two of you genuinely have that from one another, especially for as long as you've been connected, which I'm sure we'll hear a little bit tonight. So welcome to Couples Love Week. Now, this is a tradition that the man gets to introduce his beautiful wife. And so I want to turn the mic over to Chris. And Chris, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce your wife.
Okay, thanks for having us. First of all, I first want to say
I'm not the public speaker of the two, so pardon me for being a little bit nervous, just a little bit.
Ask him all the questions.
So what can I say? Okay, so about this beautiful young lady who is more beautiful inside than she is outside. God saw fit to bless her with a child with autism. Um, Fast forward years, that afforded her the opportunity and the motivation to want to help. She saw a need in the community for parents of older age children with special needs that needed to provide respite for things of that nature. So she started her own organization, founder Facing Autism with children everywhere. She's touched hundreds of families, maybe even thousands. So fast forward more years, another need that was in her heart. She just started working on our credit. We started to need to get a house, things like that. We had to get things in order. And through her research, she found out that there was a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of information that she was able to acquire and maybe provide others. And so she started another organization to provide information for others, and that is Financial Common Sense, where she helped others repair their credit and also just get it going so they can eventually hit their goals by buying houses and so forth and so on. More selfishly and importantly, she's the answer to my prayers. There was a point in time where I was pretty down low and I was just asking God, please, I want somebody so bad that I was willing to go back to the old person that hurt me. I just wanted somebody. So he left me in that waiting room for a little while. Little did I know that he was working on some things across town. You know what I'm saying? So here we are. And this is my beautiful wife, Shante.
Oh, that was so beautiful. Girl, you are an answered prayer.
I am.
That is delightful. Look, everybody husband ain't rising up and saying that she's an answered prayer. So you have to know that there is a lot of power in what he shared in that statement alone. So now, Shante, why don't you do the honors of introducing us to your handsome husband?
So he is my husband, my lover, my best friend, my homie, my ride or die. This is Christopher Superville. So that's another reason why we're super friends. Play on the name. So yeah, I met Chris in 91 in middle school. I was the new kid and I didn't know anybody. I was just trying to make friends with everybody, males, females, whatever. It was harder for the males because they just wanted to like, oh, I want to be her boyfriend. And the girls were like, she thinks she's so cute, we don't like her. So it was a struggle for me. But I would say that summer, going into 8th grade, I started to like really start making friends. And him and I connected. We exchanged numbers. We talked on the phone every day in the summertime. We talked on the phone every day after school, watching cartoons and stuff like that. And just really started just building that friendship as much as you can at 13, years old. Fast forward to high school and college and beyond, we kind of went our different paths. We stayed connected for a while, even through college. He would come to campus and party with us and crash in my dorm. I'm like, whatever, he's my best friend, but I was dating, he was dating, things like that. And then God just like, he knew we would be here. So he put us through different things on different paths and different trials and tribulations. But it just brought us closer because when I was going through things, he was my anchor, like he's always was. And so just sharing things with him about what I was going through, with my ex and stuff like that. And he was very respectful, even though he, admitted years later that he always had feelings for me. He never crossed that line and said, oh, she's going through something with her ex, let me jump in. And that like drew me to him even more later on, because I was like, man, because if I knew I loved you all these years and you told me your girlfriend was messing up, I'd have been like, hey now, so just a respectful person, God-fearing, great relationship with God. That was so important to me. And that was not something that I was willing to bend on anymore, because I did that before, trying to bring them to Christ. It's like, no, you gotta already have your own relationship established. So that was so critical to me. And I loved it. And just the fact that like we were friends first, and I've shared so much with him over the years that I kind of regret sharing at this point. But it was just that comfort level. I talked to him about any and everything. Even times where I want to surprise him with stuff, I almost slip up sometimes, like, guess what? And I'm like, no, dummy, that's for him, so it's just, I love that, like, we're open book. We can talk about everything. The communication is there. My mom loves him. His parents love me. Like, it was like something that was just in the works from the beginning, and we just didn't know. But I'm just blessed for who he is to me, to Dylan, just as my husband, as my friend, to my friends. I love the way that he, reveres them and they revere him. And it's just, I didn't pray for him, so I can't have that. He was an answer to my prayers, but God knew what I needed. So he's like, if you ain't gonna ask for it, I'm gonna give it to you. So my handsome, beautiful, husband.
That's awesome.
And so he's amazing.
That's awesome. That's so beautiful. And I think one of the things that sets your relationship apart is the friendship. And it was something that when we met briefly, I heard loud and clear. I think you guys use that word over and over. And so it plays a key foundation for you. But Chris, think about the time. Think about how long that friendship has been, how you was like Lowkey L Crush from afar. You had that going on for some time. At what point did you know that it became more than a crush, and that it was love, and that you wanted to spend your life with Shanté?
Let's see if I could pimp. Okay. So we're in adulthood. I just came back from North Carolina, and we've been reconnected for some years now. Mm-hmm. Like she says, she's accustomed to telling me about some of the troubles that she's having in her current situation. And she was removing herself from that situation. And I don't know, it was like an epiphany came to me. I don't know if I was at night, I don't working or whatever, but it was like, if you don't want to see her hurt, you're probably the best person not to hurt her. So I'm like, that's so true. Like, we became so comfortable with her letting me know what she wanted from other people, what she desired for herself, love languages, so forth and so on, all of these things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's so much information that I just know about her. Mm-hmm. It's like, I can apply it, and I would never do the things that these other guys were doing. That wasn't even in my heart. That wasn't even in my character. Mm-hmm. And I feel like she knew that. It took her a while to get accustomed to that. Mm-hmm. But at that point, during that epiphany of time, it's like, wow, I think I could really do this. I think we could be good for each other. Mm-hmm. If I could just get her to see it, maybe it could be good for each other.
Yeah, you was in the friend zone real strong then.
Mm-hmm. Wrong friend.
Mm-hmm. and maybe part of that, Shanté, is how you begin to rely on his friendship and how consistent he was for you. And like when you said he was a rock for you, and could have been that you didn't want to damage that, ruin that, change that, or even potentially lose that. What was the hesitancy?
Everything you just said. I mean, it's literally, you listen to all my conversations. I was like, but he's my Chris. Mm-hmm. And like, if we're dating, then I don't have a Chris. And my friends were like, you dummy. Like, that's the best thing to have, like your mate as your Chris. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to lose that. That was the biggest thing. The hesitancy was that. Mm-hmm. Then it was, well, he knows all this other stuff about you that like your girlfriends don't even know. And I'm like, God, he knows that. And we had a conversation about it early on. And he was like, if I was gonna hold that against you, then we wouldn't be here. So I'm like, ooh, okay. But I think it was just about not wanting to lose that. And I couldn't figure out how separately that can come together and work. Mm-hmm. I'm like best friend and wife and husband. No, like people say, I used to hear people say, my husband's my best friend. I'm like, yeah, right. Cause I'm like, that's just not possible. But it was that. The thing that made my turning point was his sister saying, if you go ahead and let one of these other little mamas out here get my baby brother. And I was like, I would support him. I would be happy for my best friend. And I was like, how would you really feel if you saw all of that goodness, that love, that compassion, all of that, who I know him to be, given to somebody else? So it was almost selfish that I decided to try it, because I was like, I don't want nobody else to have this. So let me just try. But my conversation to him was, if this does not work, I want us to not have no beef. And I want us to just try our best to go back to how things were. And I knew that probably wasn't possible either. So I was like, well, in order to not lose him, I just got to grab him. It was selfish,
Mhm.
but here we are.
Yeah, that is a risk, especially when he is your person, right? Because it's hard to think about jeopardizing that. Now, what anniversary is this for you guys on Friday? 10, double digits. Woo woo.
We made it, Mama, we made it.
Yes. So congratulations. As you think about the last 10 years, Chris, tell me, what do you cherish most?
That's a good question. I think we talked about this the other day. I love the fact that my background is very, like Ella's, very sketchy, had some things done, heard, blah, blah, right? So I'm very protective of myself naturally. But it was the fact that I could actually not have to worry about protecting myself. Now I had to grow mentally to the point where I can able to do that. But once I realized that she has my best interest, I don't have to worry about anything at all that's going to come malicious or anything like that. So now I can focus all my attention on doing what's best for her and things like that.
Okay. Shanté, what about you? What do you cherish most when you think about the last 10 years and what you're celebrating in this milestone?
Chris has no children of his own.
Mm-hmm.
So coming into a relationship or marriage with someone with a young child, because Dylan was like 3 or 4 when we started getting serious. Can you go? And excuse us. Mm-hmm. And then a child with special needs. Mm-hmm. To see how he just started researching autism on his own. Mm-hmm. He started reading up on it. He started, when I would run my respite care program on the weekends, he wouldn't just come help set up and roll out. He was right there with the kids doing puzzles. So just seeing how I didn't have to try to convince him, like, I know, you don't know about autism and Dylan's this way. He just jumped in and figured out what we need to do to make sure this boy thrives and how we can thrive as a unit. So I really cherish that, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. Like, it's already hard when it's like, well, that's really not my child. So it's already that bond of trying to act like that's your child. Or people say they care for my son or my daughter like their own. It has to come naturally. You can't convince somebody, treat my child like it's yours, because that's just not possible, right? So the fact that he jumped in, he took the reins, he started learning about autism, and just seeing how influential he's been in Dylan's life. That's the biggest takeaway for me.
That's beautiful. And Chris, I honor you for that, because she's right. There's people who won't date someone with a child, let alone a child with special needs. There's a lot of people who would turn and walk away and not really anchor in. And the fact that you were able to do that and come in and really embrace the partnership and everything that she was doing as a parent for Dylan, and everything that she was doing entrepreneurially, because I think she's about the only person busier than me. I
don't know whether to laugh or cry.
But everything that she had going on, and how you were able to just kind of step in and be supportive is beautiful. And so I definitely honor you for that. Now we've talked about Dylan, right? And we talked about the family experience. Let me just talk about some stats that I researched, and you probably are way more learned than me, but this is what I pulled out when it comes to autism. What I found, it said in 2020, the CDC reported that approximately 1 in 54 children in the US is diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. And that was based on data from 2016. It went on to say that 1 in 34 boys are identified with autism, and 1 in 144 girls are identified. It said that boys are 4 times more likely to be diagnosed than girls, and more children are still being diagnosed after the age of 4. So after seeing all the signs, there are more children that are being diagnosed later when they can be reliably diagnosed at 2. Mm-hmm. It said, while autism affects all ethnic and social ethnic groups, minority groups tend to be diagnosed later and less often. And that early intervention is the best opportunity to support healthy development and deliver benefits across the lifespan. And so when I listened to that, and I heard you say that when Chris came into your life and Dylan was 3, you already knew, right?
He was diagnosed at 2.
Yeah, that you already knew. Tell me what you saw in Dylan that gave you perspective to look deeper at what was going on.
It was the language loss. So he started talking like appropriately, and then he wouldn't say anything anymore. And I'm like, why? Say duck, say ball, say all the things you were saying. That he wasn't playing with toys appropriately. Most boys would drive trucks, crashing into each other. You would go in his room and there'll be 700 trucks just lined up in the room. I'm like, what is that about? No eye contact. Well, before he was diagnosed, he was, you put the camera in front of him. He's like, and then it was Dylan, trying to get his attention. Or if I'm in front of his face, he would look away. And so I didn't understand. And the hardest part was that I didn't understand at that moment that autism was a spectrum disorder. I thought autism is autism. So I had a friend at the time whose daughter was diagnosed. She's exactly a year older. And I was like, well, it can't be that because he does some of those things, but he don't do all those other things. So I was like, it can't be autism until I learned their severities, And so then I thought he just had a speech delay, but it was all those other characteristics, not playing with kids at daycare. If I go in the daycare and pick him up, all the kids are here. He's the only one in the corner, not understanding social cues, not transitioning well. They're in daycare. Okay, put your toys away, time for circle time. He will have a fit because I'm not done with the toys. When other kids can just say, okay, time to switch. You can't just spring that on. It was all those things, but the language was first. The other things came, and that's when I got him. First was speech therapy and occupational therapy. And then, so he started that at 16 months. So you talking about early intervention. I was not playing. I was like, what do we need to do? Who do we call? And that too, it was the official diagnosis from the psychologist. And then I was just like, all right, well, I already kind of been researching what this could be. So I was ready to hit the ground running. So all those stats you pulled up, it was interesting to hear them now because they were so different when he was diagnosed. And it's just getting progressively worse. It's 1 in 54. It was 1 in 150 when he was born.
Wow.
I mean, when he was born, it was 1 in 150. When he was diagnosed, it was 1 in 110. Then 1 in 89, and now you're saying 1 in 54. It's just getting worse.
Wow. In that moment, as a mom, what did you feel?
When you're pregnant with a child, you have all these dreams of what they're going to do and be, right? And so I wanted a boy so bad. I was like, I can't handle girls. I can't handle another me. So Jesus, please don't do that to me. So it was, he's going to be in sports and he's going to do this and he's going to be karate and he's going to dance and so all of that went out the window. It's hard for me to sulk in moments like that because I'm such a problem solver. So it was like, yeah, I dealt with it, but it was like, all right, he got autism. What do we do? Who do we call? So I was ready to just hit the ground running. I didn't have time to sulk, right? And so the moments where I do feel like that is every birthday. I'm proud of the milestones he's making, but I'm like, this is what he should be able to do at this point. This is what he should be able to accomplish. So that makes me sad, but I quickly say, but girl, Chris said, I run a nonprofit with kids with special needs. I'll come across kids much older than him who cannot do half the things he can do. So I quickly start saying, you know what? We're not going to sulk. Let's get it. So in the moment, it was sadness because you have dreams for what you think they're going to do and be. But I know now, and he told me, God saw fit to give you Dylan because he could have gave him to any other mother, right? And that allowed me to serve so many other families who were affected because I would have had empathy for them, but I would have never started a nonprofit with kids with special needs. No way, And so it was a bigger picture than just Dylan being diagnosed with autism. It was much bigger than that. And he is the one who always put that in my head.
That's beautiful. That's a gift that it didn't necessarily come as you wanted, but it has so much potential and promise to make an impact. And when you embraced it and really became the advocate, you found out that you were advocating for way more than Dylan, right? He started that role of having you show up and rise above and really be impactful. And we'll talk about the nonprofit in just a second. But Chris, tell me, because at that point you were SuperFriend, right?
Yes, ma'am.
When you were watching and knowing what she was going through in those moments, right? Of realizing that Dylan had autism and that this was an assignment for her to be his advocate. When you were watching that, what perspective did you have?
Wow, admiration.
Mm-hmm.
Just the way she picked up that ball, like she said, she didn't saw. If she did, she didn't let me see it. She didn't tell me about it. Just the way she picked up that ball and started going, like it was just natural. Like she's a natural researcher. She's a natural researcher. So she's in front of her, just getting all the information, learning how to apply the information, and just her toughness through it all, just her braveness through it all. And her strength. Like a lot of people will break down in those moments. I've seen a lot of parents who are in total denial. That's the parents that you're talking about at 4, and after that, they diagnose their kids after that age. But when she started, she picked up on it, she got it, and she just applied all the information. Just admiration for the way she did it. Offering anything that I could do as a friend, but still trying to respect everything within her situation. So still playing the back. I knew nothing about autism before her. Like I didn't hear the phrase, the term, anything until she explained to me what was going on with Dylan. So that just opened my eyes to a whole new world, to a whole new person. Like I said, I know a lot of people who would have given up in that moment, and it was admirable to see her pick up the ball and roll and help so many others.
And stepping in as dad, right? You know, there's a transition to single mom, and I can only imagine you became mother bear at that point, because, you know, this is my baby. This is, you know, like I imagine, and figuring out how to allow room for Chris to come in. You knew he cared, but I would imagine he still had some other things to show in that moment when it came to Dylan, because that's your baby and he has needs, special needs. What was that experience like for you guys coming together as a family with all of the demands that were there around Dylan and what his needs were at that earlier stage? Either of you can answer.
For me, I think, and I don't even know if I ever expressed this to Chris, but I had a little bit of fear that like he wouldn't be able to handle this life and just be like, you know, we can be friends, but like I'm just not prepared for this. And I was like, dang, like I would hate for that to be the one thing that didn't propel us forward. Because first it was me, and then I finally was like, okay, let me break down. And then I'm like, now we have another dynamic, which is dealing with the special need, right? And so you talking about admiration, like it was really like the fact that he was like, all right, so I don't know about it, but like what do I need to know about it so I can help, right? And I think that came from just the friendship part of him, and that transitioned into the family dynamic, because before we were dated, he was in Dylan's life. He was at Dylan's 3rd birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. You know, we weren't dating then, you know, so it's like he's always been there. So I was just like, okay, so he saw a little bit, he understood a little bit, but once he got deeper into it, I was like, can he handle this? Because like you said, I'm mama bear. As soon as he was diagnosed, it's my child. He came from me. I'm like, what do we got to do? Let's go. And him, he's like, well, I don't really have to be a part of this. This is a choice. And he made the choice. And that really was a lot. As a unit, it was tough. Sometimes it's still tough because Chris is from a Caribbean family. They have different values and cultural aspects when it comes to discipline, right? And so him having to rewire his brain, like I can't discipline him the way I was because there's a disconnect there. Sometimes in the moment you forget that. Like there are times where I disciplined him a way where I'm like, dang, I could have handled that better, you know? And so it's a learning process every single day for both of us. And he's my child. But Chris has been here basically almost since the beginning of the diagnosis. And 3. And so it's I love our dynamic because there's so many different things that make things work. We met 30 years ago. We've been friends for a long time. Before you even dated, we had a solid relationship. And I think that we work so well, and I hate to keep saying this because it sounds so cliche, but the friendship is what holds us together. Like, I have to say, the ways we handle each other, the way we handle conflict, the way we speak to each other, it's in the way that I would never speak to my friend this way. Why would I speak to my husband this way? He's still my friend. And so that's so natural. That's something I don't have to intentionally think about. It's just natural. So for me, it's just a couple of little learning curves at the beginning, but autism is a deal. I'm learning Dylan every day, because every day he's a different child. I don't know who he's going to be, what he going to like, what food he don't like this time, what food he loves, so you just never know. So, I mean, I think that I could do this alone just because I'm a tough girl, but I like this is, I couldn't have asked for a better partner to ride this autism train with. So
Chris, tell me about Dylan.
Oh.
How much time we got?
He's a very sweet boy. Not an aggressive bone in his body. Only thing he wants is his French fries, his chicken, sometimes hamburger, pizza,
and my computer.
Yeah, and his computer. And in a lot of ways, he's just like a typical boy, though. At 15, we don't see him. He's in his room. When he wants something to eat, then he'll come down. If he got another request, then he'll come down. Then he'll go back up the stairs. And back upstairs in his room, and that's it. You won't see him. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of ways, he's typical in that way. He's a teenager, so he'll push you. He'll try to get away with things the same way. So a lot of things is like, all right, part of it is the autism, and I understand that, but he think he's slick. He trying to get away with something here. And I know it, because the other day he did it this way, and he not going to play. So it's just trying to find that balance of what may be the autism, what not be. But in general, he's a real sweet kid. Real kid. I couldn't ask for nothing better. And stepping into the situation, like she said, my parents are from Trinidad. It's growing up, I'm going to say it once, and that's it. If I got to say it twice, it's a different type of energy. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So growing up, that's the way I'm like, yeah, my kids are going to respect me the same way. Mm-hmm. Dylan's my child. So coming into the same situation, it's like I had to reprogram my brain, because you do have to tell him things over and over and over again. And that's a direct contrast to how I was raised. So I'm like, I have to catch myself like, why do I got to keep saying this over? Oh, Chris, come on now. So he helped me work on my patience. Just as much as I'm helping him grow, learn, he's helping me grow, learn too. I can always do it. And he's the direct teacher of my patience as far as it's come to this point. I can say that.
Wow, that's good. So Shanté, tell me about Dylan.
Dylan is a very loving, sweet boy. I know every parent says that, but he really is. He's funny. If he could talk for real, the stuff he would say, I can't even imagine. Like Chris said, not aggressive. Even when we try to play box, he's just like tapping at me. I'm like, punch mommy, come on. Like, he's just so gentle, very self-sufficient. Oh gosh, he loves to work. I homeschooled him last year, and it wasn't difficult for me because I had to drag him to the table so he can work. He loves to work. It was me trying to keep up with teaching him stuff because he learned so fast. The memory of oh my God, like if somebody could program the perfect robot, it would be Dylan. Mm-hmm. He doesn't forget anything, very observant. Mm-hmm. And I am grateful almost that he doesn't quite understand that he has autism. He's like, I'm just living, I'm here. I don't know the difference, because he's like, life is great to me. I ask for stuff, I get it. I might have to try a little harder to explain things, but I don't think he just understands. And I think I'm happy about that. Mm-hmm. Because it can cause depression within yourself. I know people who have Asperger's, which is a higher level, and they are aware of what the issues are, and it can be depressing, cause anxiety and stuff like that. So, but Dylan is this very sweet, hard worker. He is 15, but mentally he's young, much younger than that. But like Chris said, there's still some teenager up in there, but he is just really a sweet kid. Caring for so many kids on the spectrum over the years, I actually thank God a lot. And we have this conversation too, because Chris, he's been there. He's been at my camp in my respite programs. And I'm like, man, like if God was going to give us a child with autism, he gave us like one of the best ones. Like, I wouldn't say if somebody's bad or good, but it's just like our lives can be so much more difficult because I've seen it firsthand. And I feel bad for some of the families that I'm like, man, I'm dealing with this just every day at camp, but you got to live with this. So, you know, it could have been different. So I try to find the silver lining in our life, and not always, because autism, I hate autism. I don't hate my child. I hate the disorder. And if I could have it any other way, I would wish it away so quickly. But it is what it is, and we have to just find our lane on the road that we've been put on. But I couldn't ask for a better child, really. I mean, I have complaints, but I can have more complaints, and I don't. So
tell me about FACE. Tell me about your nonprofit organization, how you started it, you know, the idea of how it came about. Just introduce us to it.
So FACE is Facing Autism with Children Everywhere. And so I knew that I had no idea what I wanted FACE to be. Me and a friend came up with the name, and I just got a website. I had a About Me page and a couple of pictures of Dylan and some kids. And I was like, that's it. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. And I know I heard from God say, because I wanted to start it 3 years before I started it, but life got in the way. And I heard God the last week of the year in 2012. And he said, this is your season. And I was like, to do what? You know? And he's like, this thing you've been wanting to start. And I'm like, but I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And he was like, just start. So I got the website up. But the biggest thing I knew what I wanted to do is when I joined a lot of groups on Facebook with autism families, and I would hear, we never get a break. We're so tired all the time. We don't trust anybody with our kids. He's nonverbal. He's not potty trained. And I'm like, how do families get a break that are dealing with this? And I was feeling like them too, but I immediately was like, it's not about me. How can I help them? And so I started my respite program first. Every second Saturday of the month, I would take 10 kids and I would have 10 buddies to pair up with the kids, and those parents dropped them kids off and ran for the hills. For 4 hours, they got a chance to just have a break for whatever. I have a wedding I need to attend, and I was trying to figure out how to do it without him. Or I have other kids who never get my time because so much time is dedicated to Kennedy. So it was just really, I started there. And then I'm always like, okay, how else can I help? What else can I do? And then I started my summer camp, and that turned into an after school program. And I just kept on doing things. I had fundraisers to raise money. I never got grants. Everything was either out of my pocket or donations from people. And I loved it and people would say, when do you do all this for us? When do you get a break? And I'm like, it's not about me right now. I'm like, my time will come. But right now, God was like, this is my season, and I'm just going to pour myself into it until it's finished. Now, COVID hit. And so I'm like, all right, God, this is kind of where I'm like, all right, now that lane is done. I did it for 7 years. Where do you want me to go now? And here I am with FCC. Now I still help people. They say, I have a coworker whose child was just diagnosed. She don't know what to do. Can she call you? So I still get referred out and stuff like that. I used to do trainings around the neighborhood for police departments and barbershops and stuff to say, if you come across with somebody with autism, this is how it is. This is how you should react. This is what you may see, which you may think, oh, they look typical, but they aren't. So don't respond to them as if they are. So I was going around doing that. So, I mean, it just turned into something that God placed in my heart because I had my own child with autism, and I understood how all these families felt. And
so tell me, what would you tell them on those trainings? When you say, whether it's with the police or with the barbershop, I've seen shows where, and even heard stories of children who either wear headphones for different reasons and hoodies for different reasons. And parents are really scared because of stereotypes around how they show up when they're really just trying to maintain themselves with their needs. So when you say you did training with police and with barbers, like, what were you telling them?
So some stuff was general. These are some of the characteristics you may see in someone with autism. And then some stuff was very specific scenarios based on how what a police officer would encounter and what the barber or stylist would encounter. So a lot of general things were like, what does autism look like? People look at Dylan all the time and say, he doesn't look like he has autism. I'm like, and what is that supposed to look like? Because it's not a physical appearance. It's interactions, is how so Down syndrome, you can tell they all have a specific look, but autism is not. And so I would get that. And so I'm just explaining in general, here's some of the characteristics, but let me talk to you about what you may encounter. Dylan, the clippers are right here. He is going crazy because it probably sounds like a train coming at you. So a lot of it was explaining more sensory issues. If they see certain things or hear certain things or touch certain things, how they would react, and then how you should respond to that. Because if you don't look like anything's going on and you have a child screaming and yelling because you're clipping, you might be like, come on, little man, man up, man up. It's not about manning up. Like, they can't control that. And so really showing them, here's what you may encounter. Here's what it looks like. And here's how you should handle that. Here's even how you should handle a parent. Because the parents are sitting right there. They're embarrassed. They're feeling away. Their child is spazzing out. Make them feel like it's okay. And if you can show them that you are aware of what they're doing and why, it makes the parent feel more comfortable. Because I've had someone tap and Dylan, oh, come on, little man, man up. I'm like, ain't no man up. He can't. Like, you don't understand. So I was like, then explain it to people. So I started doing trainings with police officers. Some people don't like bright lights or noises. So you might see somebody think they're committing a crime, or you don't know. Someone called, say someone's walking down the street with a neon, looks suspicious, and you pull up. The lights drive them crazy. They start running. You're thinking they're running from you. So they might get shot. They might get tased. It's about realizing what triggers them, what attracts them. Some kids love bright lights or bright, shiny objects. So you might be talking to somebody and they may reach out for your badge. You thinking they trying to attack you. It's just they love your badge because it's shiny and bright. So just what it looks like in their world, as a cop, as a doctor, as a dentist, as a barber, as a stylist. So that's what my trainees would do. And I would do them every year, typically, if they ask me to come in, because they may have new staff or something like that. So
that's really, really good.
Yeah.
In fact, it's very powerful, because we often see people as we are, instead of being empathetic and trying to understand who they are and see things from their perspective. It's so unfortunate that we don't take the time to calm ourselves and begin to understand that there could be more in a situation than what we really see on the surface. And we may be reacting out of context and taking things very seriously that could cause harm unnecessarily, especially when you have special needs. Tell me about a special memory, Chris, from when you were involved with FACE. What do you remember?
Let's see what I got for you. I'm normally the background guy, the setup, take down, drive here, drive there guy. Trey, one of the first.
I knew you was going to talk about him.
And when I'm not doing, I'm normally playing the back scene, what everybody needs. If anybody didn't address it, things like that. And one of our kids came up to us, and normally I'm in the back, they leave me alone. They just interact with whoever wants to interact. I don't know how he pointed me out and singled me out, but he came up to me and we just had the best time bonding, Trey. And it was just something special. It was something special to me. I think that's the best one, because it was the first time. Every other time, again, I'm setting up things like that, but that was the first time. It was probably at the second respite. It was the first time one of the children like initiating coming up to me to spend time and bond with me. So I think that was it. Yeah.
And then his mom said that he asked, like, can we go see Shante and Mr. Chris? And I thought that was so sweet. And they came every time we had a session. So yeah.
That's awesome. You know, it's so honorable what you did, and so selfless, that you recognize that need and made yourself available to serve that way. That's powerful, Shante. You are a doer and you do so much from your heart. And I don't think that you really understand the full impact that you are making in people's lives by just showing up with the desire to serve the way that you do. There's a lasting impact that you have made through that nonprofit in the families' lives that were touched. And there's also a lasting impact through even how you serve through your financial group. And it's beautiful because it's so selfless on your part, you know, of how you're showing up to serve. But you definitely wear that superhero cape really well. And if you stay right there, there's even greater that you'll do. because you have a desire to just do what you can as powerfully as you can for those who need help.
It's like I went through everything I went through, and I don't want it to be in vain. So when I share the story of I overcame cancer at 22, and then I went through a divorce, and I was homeless at one point, and I lost my job, and it's like, okay, what did you go through all that for? Like, not to be like just to say it happened, right? Not only can you share it as a testimony, so other people can be inspired or feel like, oh, I can overcome whatever I'm going through, but how can you actually use it to impact other people, not just a testimony, but like physically impact other people. So the same thing with Dylan's autism. I would never have done what I've done if he didn't have autism. So how can I make an impact with the hand that I was dealt, right? And it's natural. It wasn't like me trying to be like, how can I make an impact on the world? Like, I just do what I do, and then it makes an impact. When I started a group, it was because I was tired of people talking about losing weight at the end of the year, or getting their beach body together, or finding the best meal plan. I'm like, what's your finances look like? So I said, let me start a group that's like just confidential and encouraging and non-judgmental, and just share my story and then help others. Because again, I didn't go through all that for no reason. So what can I do? And it wasn't about, I wasn't thinking with the end in mind. I was thinking about how can I just help people right now, and not even seeing like, wow. So when you say that, I have friends that say, do you just ever sit back and say, wow, look what I've done? I'm like, no, because I'm right in the middle of it. It's only when I receive the praises and the support from people, I'm like, man, wow, I am doing that. Because to me, it's just everyday life.
Yeah, I get it. But you're changing families. And that's the impact that you're making, is that you are absolutely changing families. The trajectory that they are on is shifted because of you. And that's awesome. Very, very awesome. So as we get ready to wrap up here, I want you to encourage the heart of someone who just learned, or maybe sitting in your shoes and parenting a child who is on the spectrum. From your experiences, and you guys can chime in with a few wits and wisdoms that you would share, what would you say to them? How would you encourage them?
I would hate to say, don't be sad, just figure it out, because that's just a normal, response, right? But understand that, and I don't know everybody's like spiritual background and stuff like that, but it's like nothing happens by chance, right? And this was preordained before you even existed, right? So if you just realize that this was supposed to happen, right, the way it did, and how can I make the best of it? And I hate sounding so cliche-ish, but it's like, this is it. So figure out the way to make everybody's life easier, figuring out what you can do. Maybe that doesn't mean you start a nonprofit, but that just means that, you're just there for your child. Your child doesn't understand what's happening. You losing control and being sad all the time. Where does that leave your child? You sulking as much as you do, what type of results does that render? So sulk, cry, allow yourself to grieve, because you're really grieving a child that you lost, right? I didn't gain the child that I thought that was going to be born. I lost that child, and I have a new one. All right, so let's figure out this new child. How are you doing? What's your name? Oh, you are still dealing? Okay, let me figure out who you are so I know how to engage with you. It's just a difference. So like, just take the journey for what it is. It's your journey. It's their journey. It's your children, your other children's journey. Everyone that's on this train with you is being impacted. It's not just you, unless you are a single mom with nobody else. But reach out. Don't be embarrassed. I hate to say this, and you touched on it, and Chris did too. We did a radio interview years ago, and it was specifically about our story, but like how in the Black and brown communities, those kids are diagnosed so much later because you're embarrassed. It's taboo in your culture, or you're embarrassed to say my child has a special need or something's wrong with them. It is what it is. Figure out how you can make things better. Don't be embarrassed, and just, I don't know, just understand that, like, yes, you could have been given a different life, but this is the life that was given to you. So figure out what to do with it. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I can be any more deeper or, encouraging than just this is the hand you were dealt. Play the hand and try to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Chris, what would you add to that?
I think a common theme in the discussion that we had tonight was a lot of understanding. I think that's an underrated, undervalued spiritual gift, character trait that a lot of people have and apply today. Like we're in an information age today. Like information is all around us. So when you see things that don't quite be right, it might be a child with special needs. Don't be so quick to judge. Take your time, take yourself out of your shoes. Think about how that parent may feel with that child acting. Think about what that child might be going through. Don't be so quick to cast disparages and things like that. Or just have an understanding mind and see what you could do to help. This is the only way. Like we're in a tumultuous time right now, and it's up to us to change this as much as we can within our control. If you see the opportunity to help, take some time to help. They may need it at the time. And then maybe you can get in a conversation with them and gain some understanding and some empathy so you can pass it on to the next person. So maybe you can get that ball rolling for them. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
So, yes, ma'am.
I do. I absolutely follow that. So Shanté, I remember a post. It exemplified so much energy, but it helped me understand your joy. You posted Dylan. He had his computer and he was laughing. He was laughing and you were as excited like a kid on Christmas morning. And you were so excited that it made me take a step back and try to understand, like, why is she so excited in this moment? And when I saw that post, it helped me to realize what Chris just said, is that we do need to seek to have understanding. Tell me about that moment that brought you so much joy.
Because like Chris said, sometimes you don't know what's the autism and what's the true character of just that person. And it's a very complex disorder, right? If I ask Dylan, how was school today? He has no idea what that means. He'll just say school today because he's just repeating what I said because he doesn't understand. First day of school, I couldn't say, so did you meet new friends? How was your teacher? All I can do is go by whatever the teacher say, right? They have to be the voice for Dylan. When I see Dylan laughing, when people laugh, they don't just laugh randomly, right? You don't just like sit and go, no, you thought of something funny. The fact that he can connect something he saw as funny and express that is such a small potatoes to somebody. Okay, your child laughed at something funny, but for me, it's like he understands humor. Mm-hmm. He gets it. And normally when I'm recording him, he sees me, he stops. But when he saw me and he didn't, I was like, now I want to see what he's laughing at. And like, you saw the animals falling. And the fact that he was cracking up, I'm just like, it brought me such joy. Not because, oh, Dylan's happy. He's typically just a happy kid all the time. It was that level of connecting some wires that weren't connected. Like he saw something funny and he's responding in the way that he should appropriately. And that was such a big deal for me. And of course it's funny because the way he was laughing, he's crying and wiping tears and drooling because he's laughing so hard. But for me, it was like, man, like the stuff that people take for granted. Like the first time he bathed alone without me having to watch him, he was probably like 12. To me, maybe 11, but that was a big deal. Like, I don't have to wash your behind. Like, you got this. So just that video brought me such joy because I'm like, wow, like whenever I see that he can understand something that I thought he couldn't, it brings me great joy. It's the smallest thing. I'm like, he's laughing at something that's actually really funny. Mm-hmm. And like cracking, it keeps rewinding it over and over and over and laughing. That just it meant the world to me. Like that. And I'm always sharing Dylan's stories for purposes like yours. People always say, just thank you for inviting us into your world, because on a regular basis, you see a movie with somebody with autism, they're a brainiac, they're a genius, they're having conversation. I'm like, that is not what autism looks like in everybody's house. Mm-hmm. So let me share with you what it looks like here. Mm-hmm. Because people look at Dylan, he looks very typical. He's 15. They think what a 15-year-old boy should be doing, but 15-year-old boy with autism in our home is not what your 15-year-old boy is doing. So here's what it looks like here. Whenever I teach him something new, how to use the air fryer, how to chop lemons, how to juice it in a juicer, how to take out the trash. Like those little things I share because those took years and years of hard work for that one little moment of he brushed his teeth by himself today. That was years and years in the making. So those little moments bring me such joy and I want people to understand. You did a good job.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those moments with us. I found them to be priceless, and you're helping me to understand how to give more grace. And I appreciate that. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, around these parts, I challenge everyone to build a life they love without apology. And so we always close out with my life, love, and happiness questions. And so I'm going to give them to you both. The first one is this: what's your life wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about life if you could? And I'll let you go first, Chris.
Yay.
Get it out the way.
Okay. I think for my life wisdom, it would be when you associate yourself with people, whether it be your wife or friends, surround yourself with people that's going to hold you accountable. Nobody's 100% correct in everything. Sometimes we overreact. I know this, trust me. So you need friends or somebody to bring you back in. But hey, here's another perspective to think about this that you may miss from being on the inside, and I see it differently from the outside. So just to surround yourself with people that can hold you accountable, not afraid to tell you what's wrong, so forth and so on.
That's good. So Shanté, what's your life wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about life if you could?
Any hardships that come about, it's just a moment. Like any hardship I've ever gone through, like it never lasted forever. So just always think about why is this happening and what can I learn from this? And I know that's hard when you're in the moment, but it's inevitable that every time I go through something and then once I come out of it, I'm like, oh, that's why I went through that. So just always think about everything you're going through as a life lesson, whether it's a victory, a hardship, whatever. It's a life lesson. Why is this happening to me? What can I gain from it? Maybe it's happening to me because I need to make some changes so that my life doesn't go down this road. Or maybe it's happening to you for somebody else. Mm-hmm. But it always comes about later, sometimes years later, and you have to just be okay with knowing, like, I may not understand what I'm going through right now, but it's going to be revealed later. So it's just a moment. Moments are moments for a reason. They do not last forever.
That's good. That's good. All right, Shanté, your love wisdom. What would you tell your younger self about love if you could?
So I've never heard somebody ask someone, do you love yourself? And they say, no, I don't. Unless you're really, really going through some things, right? So in life and in general, try your best. And it's not just a commandment, but when they say love others as yourself, if you have to be really intentional to do that, then make sure you do that. Talk to your children the way you want someone to talk to you. Talk to your spouse the way you want somebody to talk to you. Talk to your friends the way you would speak to yourself. Mm-hmm. I try not to talk down to myself. I might think bad thoughts, but like I don't talk negatively to myself. You're this, you're that, you're not. So don't talk to other people that way. So really, I know it's like I could have came deeper, but it's really about give the love that you want to receive. Mm-hmm. And like that's it. I mean, because that can encompass so many different avenues in your life: work, mm-hmm. friendship, marriage, kids, whatever. So
absolutely. Yeah. Chris, what about you? What's your love wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about love if you could?
Know your self-worth and don't try to force a relationship. If you end up, the adverse effect of that is you might end up forcing a relationship with someone who doesn't know your worth or doesn't respect your worth. So you got to know that about yourself.
That's awesome. And then finally, what's your happiness wisdom? What would you tell your younger self about happiness if you could, Chris?
Don't be dependent on somebody else to make you happy.
He stole mine. So we're going to close out as a unit. Let's say it together. Don't depend on someone else to make you happy. Look at that. See,
Beautiful. I love how you guys are on the same page of that.
Forced.
And with that, I will say to you both again, I am just, I have that admiration, the same admiration that I'm sure Chris felt many years ago, and that he feels often as you continue to blossom and serve in so many ways. But Chris, I want to tell you this. I know what it's like to be a leading lady, and I know how much we seem like we don't need, and we are self-sufficient, and we can do, and we got it. But you are a very valuable asset to her, just as much as my husband is a very valuable asset to me. And I pray that God will continue to bless your union, and that as she shines, just know that she loves you and she needs you. And I just love how I can authentically see how you are that super friend, and you're someone who wants her to be a better person, wants to make her a better person.
100%.
You guys do it for you both, but sometimes it's easier to see on the one who's out front, right? But she needs you, and she relies upon you, and you've nestled yourself to be the rock in her life, and that's beautiful. And so I just celebrate your love with one another. I honor your anniversary this week. And finally, I will close out by saying that success looks so good on you. And thank you for sharing your story with me today.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, that's it, beautiful. Thank you for tuning in. Don't ever forget that you truly deserve life, love, and all the happiness your heart can hold. Be relentless in building a life you love without apology. I'm Denise Taylor, and you can always find me in our free Facebook community. Life, love, in the pursuit of happiness, easy to find. Now, if you want more information about my success superpowers, as I'm sure you do, download my free Success Superpowers ebook at DeniseTaylor.live/podcast. And one last thing, always embrace your power and go.